About a year ago, I bought a $10 iPhone 5S from eBay. This thing had a bunch of issues, including a cracked screen, a passcode, a bad rear-facing camera, missing brackets, what I thought was a bad power button and bad volume buttons, and it obviously had to be restored through iTunes. Now, unfortunately, I did lose part of the repair video where I found new brackets, I fixed the volume button and power button assembly, and all that other stuff. But it's whatever, it doesn't really matter at this point. I recorded it somewhere around a year ago, and I recorded it on my phone, so I'm not really surprised that that kind of stuff is gone, but it does kind of suck because I could have used that in today's restoration video. So anyways, this is the video where I factory reset the iPhone via iTunes. There isn't really much special about it, it's just me restoring the iPhone. So I guess here you go. Real quick, I really just want to point out the fact that this thing has so much crap under the screen that it's ridiculous. And that's because the screen was actually not even connected. Like it's the adhesive is bad on it, so it just kind of lifts up whenever. That's why I put that piece of tape over it. As you can see right here, this is how screwed up the touchscreen was. I know the LCD has so much stuff in it, but trust me, that is not what caused the touchscreen to be this bad. But yeah, as you can see, it is really bad, and that is because the screen kept on lifting up, and apparently it was lifted far enough to rip part of the ribbon cable, which caused the touchscreen to just essentially almost die. Since the touch was so bad on the other screen, I had to put on my only other iPhone 5S screen, which was this cracked one right here, and this one also had a messed up touchscreen as well. But the difference between this one and the other one is that the touchscreen on this one worked way better than the one on the other one, so I had to use this to get through the setup screen. Even though it took me a while, I was able to get past setting up my Apple ID on the iPhone 5S, which is good, I guess. Now I'm just finishing up the last few things I need to do on the setup screen, and voila, I'm in the phone. So finally, after a year of just slacking around, it probably wasn't a year, but it was somewhere close to a year. Anyways, I got a new screen, finally. And when I first opened it up, I actually thought I had gotten scammed and actually got a random screen protector. But luckily, it wasn't a screen protector, it was the screen. So yeah. Anyways, as you can see, here it is. It is an OEM Apple screen in basically mint condition, which is awesome because it said it was a little under mint condition. So yeah, it was $13 on eBay with free shipping, and the seller was amazing. It shipped fast, and it came in perfect condition. So there you go. Moving all the trash to the side, here is the 5S. So yeah. Let's just take it out of the bag and put that new screen on it and see what happens. I'm going to admit that I did have a tiny bit of fun with this screen after I put it on this 5S to set it up and whatnot. Since the touchscreen died completely on it, I just decided to take it off and smash it, and then I was going to throw it away, but I decided to put it back on to keep the internals and whatnot protected until I got the new screen. So, yeah. Thankfully, I saved this random pack of tools because I lost my pentalobe screwdriver. So, yeah, there was one in here, which is good, and I'm very thankful that I kept this one. Anyways, the first thing I'm going to do is take out these two bottom screws from the iPhone. They use that same pentalobe screwdriver I was talking about before, and they're pretty easy to take out. There's only two. And yeah, by the way, I'm just going to say this once, but if you're doing this on your own, number one, it's at your own risk, and number two, make sure to keep your screws organized, because I hear a lot about people losing screws and whatnot, and just keep them organized. So here I'm trying to pry up the screen because I already know that a suction cup is not going to work at all when trying to take this thing apart. So I'm using a metal pry tool to pry up the screen from the housing, and I do not recommend doing this because that is dangerous for the internals, but I literally have no choice since I, once again, already know that a suction cup is not going to work, so that's what I'm going to do. Anyways, as soon as you get the screen away from the body, you don't want to lift it up all the way because the home button is connected straight down there. You can see it right there. So you want to unplug that connector, and usually there's a bracket over that, but since there wasn't on mine, then I just took it off. Now, as soon as you get that home button disconnected, you will then want to lift the screen up to a 90-degree angle. I would not go more than that because then you can start ripping stuff, and whether you want to do that or not, it's still not a good thing to do, so please don't do that. Immediately after doing all this, you will then want to disconnect the battery, and to do that, you will have to take out these two Phillips head screws, and then just take off this bracket, and then there's the battery connector, and you just disconnect it, and it's pretty easy. Finally, it is time to take off the screen, and to do that, you will want to unscrew 4 screws holding down this metal bracket right here. And it's pretty simple, but just keep in mind that all 4 of these screws are different, at least I think, so don't get them mixed up because some are longer, some are shorter, and some have larger or smaller threads. Anyways, now you are able to just lift that metal bracket with your hand and put that to the side. And after you're done with that, then you'll want to grab some metal tweezers, and if you don't have any, that's fine. But you'll just want to unclip the 3 connectors that go straight from the screen to the motherboard, and there you go. The screen's off. Since I'm not going to be doing anything with this for a good amount of time, I can put that to the side, and then I can start working on taking parts off of the screen. Now, you may or may not have to do this. It all depends on if you buy an entire screen assembly or just the screen itself. Now, since I just bought the screen itself, I have to take parts from the old screen and put it onto the new screen. It's not a big deal, but it takes a bit of extra time, and it's decently hard. Anyways, what I'm doing right now is trying to take off the bracket that holds down the home button, and as you can see, I've already taken off 1 screw, and now I'm taking off the other 2. Oh, and by the way, it is necessary to swap out your old home button and put it onto your new screen if you want to have working Touch ID with that new screen, because Apple is weird, and if you switch out the home button with your phone, then Touch ID will not work unless you go to them and get it recalibrated, but that probably costs money, and I know it costs time, so it's better just to switch out the home button and put it onto the new screen. Now it's time to take out the front-firing speaker, the front-facing camera, and all that other crap. So first we need to unscrew only 2 screws, and then we can take off this metal bracket, and then we will have access to all the little components under that bracket. And don't worry, everything except for the speaker is connected to one small ribbon cable, so it won't be a giant mess after you take all that crap out. Now, I really recommend having these metal tweezers with you because it just makes everything so much easier, because it is a tiny bit difficult to get all this stuff out, and especially what's like kind of glued to the screen, that stuff is pretty hard to get out. At this point, I decided to take out the back plate for the screen before I took out everything up top, and that is because I could not remember which ribbon cable actually went to all that stuff on the top, so it just made it a tiny bit easier just to take off the back plate and see where all that stuff meets up. Anyways, back to taking off all this crap on the top. This is pretty hard right here. This little copper piece that's glued onto the plastic behind the screen. It's pretty hard to take off, but all you gotta do is pretty much just pull it off. It's only held on by a slight amount of glue, I guess, and it does stick down onto the new screen whenever you put that on, but it is pretty hard to take off at first, so just be prepared for that. But the good thing is that as soon as you're done with that, you are completely done with that old screen, and you can just throw that crap away. Now I have the new screen, and it's pretty much just the same exact process as taking everything off, except completely backwards. So first you just want to put that shield back on, and then you just want to line everything up and get that all set in, and then just put your stuff back in. It's pretty darn simple, and it doesn't take too much time. It's not as hard as taking out all the stuff up top. Now, I do want to tell you guys that you need to put the microphone in the hole first, and then you can put the camera down, and then you can set everything else down into its place, but other than that, it's pretty pretty straightforward process. Now it's time to put the home button in, and I figured I wouldn't skip most of this process. I wanted to note something about this. You want to put the home button down first and then the little rubber gasket, because if you put the rubber gasket down first and then the home button will not click right at all, and it sucks. I've done it before, and it's annoying because then you have to take the entire thing apart again and then switch it around. So just make sure to put the home button first and then the rubber gasket, and you should be good to go. Now it's time to put that bracket over the home button and screw it in. One thing I want to note is that if you screw in the screw too much, you could leave a mark on the paint behind the screen. So, try not to do that. Anyways, with that being said, it is finally time to test out the screen and see if everything works, so let's put that thing on. Right now, I'm only testing it, so I'm not going to screw anything back in, such as the brackets and whatnot, and I'll show you exactly why later on. But yeah, if you screw everything in and then find out something doesn't work, it's going to be more of a pain to take everything back apart and swap something out or have to get a new part. It's just going to take more time, and you could potentially break something when doing that. And like I said, since I'm just testing things out right now, I'm just going to plug the battery in, plug the screen in, and leave the screen sitting on the housing without pushing it in, because then it's more work for me to take it off again. And as you can see, it works. I haven't fully tested the LCD, but from what I can infer right now, the home button works, the power button works, and the LCD seems to be functioning fine in terms of color and whatnot. As you can see, it finally powered on, but it's disabled. So I'm gonna have to wait for that. As you can see, I finally got into the phone, and touch seems to be working as well as Touch ID, which is great. So at this point, I can tell you that everything is working so far, including the touch, the home button, Touch ID, power button, all that stuff is working, but I still want to test out one thing. Well, two. The cameras. Yeah, and this is exactly why I say to test things before you put them back together, because as you can see, not only is the rear-facing camera not working, but the front-facing camera isn't working as well. Since the cameras aren't working, I will have to take the phone back apart and see if I can fix it, but it's going to be a lot easier because I didn't fully put the phone back together. Since I didn't exactly know what was wrong, I didn't feel like recording me fixing the cameras, but as you can see, I got them working, so it's time to fully assemble the phone again. Like always, I'm gonna power it down, and then I can start working on this thing. And just to be safe, I'm going to unplug that battery while I screw in the screen bracket. I just don't want to screw up this motherboard. Screwing this metal plate in is kind of tedious. It takes a while to get that first screw in because that plate keeps on moving around if you have nothing to hold it down with. So I really recommend using two hands, but since I was holding the phone with one hand, I couldn't use both hands, of course. So yeah, as soon as you get that one screw in though, it should be good to go, and it'll be a lot easier afterwards. Finally, it's time to plug in the battery and screw on the bracket, and then we're only 2 steps away from having this phone closed and working. So to connect the home button, you just want to lower the screen, but don't lower it all the way, and then you can just pretty much grab the connector with your fingers and plug it in. And then I also grabbed a new bracket since mine was missing, and I put that on as well. And finally, I can put the LCD back on by sliding the top end into the frame and then pushing it all the way down to the bottom. And marking the end of the repair, I'm screwing in the 2 bottom screws, and there we go. I am finally done repairing this iPhone 5S after waiting somewhere around a year just to get a $13 screen. But in the end, I was able to turn it from this to this. I know I could have replaced the housing, but I really didn't feel like doing so because the housing that it has on it right now has the original IMEI. But as you see, this is a 16GB iPhone 5S on Cricket running iOS 11.4.1. And checking the battery life, it doesn't seem like it's worn down that bad, which is actually pretty surprising, but it's good. Anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. It took me literally almost a year to make and 4 days to edit, so if you guys want to make my day, then please hit that like button, and if you like seeing this content, make sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace out.